But verse 33 tells us they didn't break Jesus' legs, which we've already talked about. He was already dead. Or they said he appeared to be dead. They wanted to make sure. The Romans made sure, and that's why it says in verse 34, but one of the soldiers pierced his side with a spear, and immediately blood and water came out. Now, John was describing what he saw. It wasn't literal water. That was his descriptive word for what he saw. What he was describing here are what medical experts have explained to be the blood, the pleural effusion, that means the fluid around the lungs, the pericardial effusion, that would be the fluid that collects around the heart. It would be the combination of those things that would have been released when that spear was thrust up through his right side, through his right lung, piercing the right lung, piercing the pericardium, and rupturing the heart. Those things would have come out. Now, why does that matter? I'm not going to camp out here too long. But why does that matter? Number one, because John, it tells us that John was writing accurately things that he saw. Because a fisherman in his day wouldn't have necessarily had a lot of medical expertise. I don't even have a lot of medical expertise. I've just read books. But he wouldn't have known that the fluid, because of the stress position, the fluid is going to pool in these areas, and he couldn't have made that up. He didn't have access to medical journals to study what would have happened in a hypothetical crucifixion. And they didn't stab people with spears every time at the end of a crucifixion. We see they broke the legs to hasten death. The fact that he records the blood and water without really understanding what he's recording tells us that he wrote down accurately. I mean, it's just one piece of one little brick in the wall, but it points toward him recording accurately what he saw. And the reason, the even bigger reason why it's so important that we understand this about the Romans and them ensuring his death is because there has been a theory floated around for about the last 200 years that somehow or another Jesus survived the crucifixion. They say, oh no, we don't believe in the resurrection. We've got to find some natural explanation. So how about this? It's called some variations of this are called the swoon theory. The idea that Jesus appeared to be dead, he was close to death, and they took him down thinking he was dead, put him in the tomb, and left him there for 3 days while he kind of revived. He came out of that swoon, and 3 days later he came out of the grave. Somebody was going to be beaten and lose that much blood and be in that condition and lay there in a dark, damp cave for 3 days with no medical attention and walk out and be robust enough that anybody thought he was the risen Son of God. That defies. I'm too skeptical to buy that. I'll just put it that way. There's no way that Jesus survived the cross. And we know that because there's no way for somebody to survive the injuries that John describes. The Romans knew how to make sure he was dead, and they made sure he was dead. It's impossible for him not to have been dead when he came down off the cross.